who deny that there is a resurrection came forward and put this question to Jesus, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote for us, if someone's brother dies, leaving a wife but no child, his brother must take the wife and raise up descendants for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first married a woman but died childless. Then the second and the third married her. And likewise all the 7 died childless. Finally the woman also died. Now at the resurrection, whose wife will that woman be? For all 7 had been married to her." Jesus said to them, "The children of this age marry and remarry. But those who are deemed worthy to attain to the coming age and to the resurrection of the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. They can no longer die, for they are like angels, and they are the children of God, because they are the ones who will rise. That the dead will rise, even Moses made known in the passage about the bush, when he called out, 'Lord, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.' For he is not the God of the dead, but of the living. For to him all are alive." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Well, it took all summer long, but we finally have the traffic circle here in town all completed. The intersection that was there before was always very dangerous. You never quite knew when to yield to people. It was always a little bit dangerous to pull out into traffic, so I'm glad they put a traffic circle there. They say that traffic circles limit the severity of accidents because people are traveling slower, and they're also good for the environment because there's less stopping and going. But when you see how some drivers navigate traffic circles, it really makes you wonder whether they're worth it. There was a county down in Florida recently who put several new traffic circles in, but after a couple months, they had to produce some traffic circle education videos because some drivers simply didn't know how to navigate them. Some drivers would go around the roundabout in the wrong direction. Some would get into the middle of the traffic circle and just stop, paralyzed, unable to figure out how to proceed. Some drivers would travel miles out of their way to avoid the traffic circle altogether. And every so often, the police would find someone just traveling around and around the circle perpetually, like a crazed hamster on the wheel, unable to find their way out. I wonder if the woman who married 7 brothers, I wonder if she felt that same way. Like she was just going around in circles in life, making the same mistake over and over and over again. Of course, there's no evidence that this woman actually existed. The Sadducees made this story up to mock Jesus' faith. The Sadducees were that Jewish sect that didn't believe in the resurrection. They didn't believe in life after death. They thought that this life was all there is, that you just travel around the circle of life for a while, and at some point you just stop in the middle of it all, and you don't travel any farther. So they certainly didn't appreciate the fact that Jesus was always talking about resurrection and new life. And to discredit him, they come up with this rather ridiculous story. Jesus, okay, this woman has been married to 7 brothers. She can't be married to all 7 in heaven. As any married couple knows, just having one spouse is hard enough. Imagine having 7. And if you put it that way, I guess it does make heaven sound a little bit ridiculous. But it was based on a law that the Jews had that a man could take the wife of a brother who died to carry on the family name. In fact, in the Old Testament, there's a story about a woman named Sarah who had 7 husbands who all died before she married Tobiah. But still, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that a woman would marry 7 brothers. You would think that after the 4th time or so around that circle, the brothers would begin to figure out maybe marrying this woman isn't the brightest idea. It might seem a little bit strange to us that the Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection, didn't believe in life after death, but that's because we're Christians. We take it for granted that, yeah, of course, there's life after death, there's life in heaven, after life on this earth. That's a belief that the 3 great monotheistic religions, the religions that believe in the one God, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, all share. But outside of that context, life after death is not always taken for granted. Many atheists share a belief with the Sadducees that this life is all there is. That when we die, that's it. The show's over. The material of our body is just used up again by the earth. Many Buddhists have a belief that when we die, our individuality is sort of not maintained. We're just absorbed into the universe. Hinduism has a belief in reincarnation, that what we're experiencing right now is just one trip around the circle, and the next time around the circle, maybe we'll be living as a dog, or another human being, or a fruit fly. That would be a pretty short trip. It might be very tempting to think that we were some famous person in a past life. That sounds really attractive, but actually, that's a pretty depressing belief if you think about it, because to think that we might just be trapped in a circle over and over again and never be able to get out. There were two friends who were walking down the street one day, and they saw a sign that said, "Reincarnation Seminar, $500. And one friend said, "Yeah, that sounds kind of interesting. I think I might go to that. Would you come with me?" The other friend said, "Well, I guess we'll go. Why not? You only live once." Well, what Jesus came to teach us is that yes, we only live once. But how we live that life determines how we spend eternity. And life here on earth is short, but eternity is forever. Now that's not an original idea to Jesus. God had been preparing the people of the Old Testament for centuries to come to believe in life after death. You can trace in the Old Testament how that belief gets stronger and stronger. So much so that when we get to our reading today from the book of Maccabees, which is one of the last books in the Old Testament to be written only about 150 years before the time of Jesus, we see that there's a belief there in the resurrection that's already fully formed. We hear a story about a mother and her sons, a set of 7 brothers. I don't know why the Bible has all these stories about 7 brothers, but it reminds me of the movie 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, but here it is again, 7 brothers. And as they're being persecuted by the wicked Greek king, Antiochus IV. And this wicked Greek king is trying to impose his religion on the Jewish people. He's trying to get these brothers to eat pork in violation of God's law. And he even ends up bringing them to the torture chamber and has them tortured in front of their mother to try to get them to violate their religion. But what gives these brothers strength is the same thing that gives the martyrs strength throughout the centuries. It's the same thing that gives Christians today, who are persecuted sometimes violently around the world, strength. And it's belief in the resurrection. It's the belief that, yes, this wicked king can kill my body, but he cannot kill my soul. And that even if he were to cut off my hands or my feet in the torture chamber, God will give these parts back to me one day in the resurrection at the end of time, in the resurrection of the body. Now Jesus takes that Old Testament belief in the resurrection and he perfects it. In his answer to the Sadducees, he makes clear that in heaven, we're going to be living a very different kind of life than we're living now. It's not just going to be another trip around the circle. That we're going to be experiencing a higher, perfect kind of life. There's going to be no marriage in heaven, for example. Because we're already going to be living that perfect union with God, that marriage here on earth is only an earthly sign-off. At the same time, however, Jesus also makes clear that while we'll be living a different life in heaven, it's still going to be us who experience it. Our individuality isn't just going to be absorbed into the universe. It's still the same Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob up there in heaven who lived here on earth. To God, all are alive. Now, how this is all going to work is a little bit mysterious, but we get a glimpse of it in Jesus' own resurrection. After Easter, we see that the Jesus who appears to the disciples is very much the same Jesus. He's alive again. They know him. It's the same Jesus they lived with for 3 years, and yet he's also living a different kind of life. He now can walk through walls. He can go anywhere he wants. He doesn't have to eat if he doesn't want to. He's never going to die again. This month of November is a month set aside for the church specifically for us to pray for our loved ones who have died, that they will be set free from all the bondage of sin and come to share in this same resurrected life. Throughout this month, as always, we have our book of remembrance over here by the baptismal font. If you'd like to place the names of your loved ones, we'll pray for them. Later on this month, we'll have our Mass for the deceased, where we read and pray for all the members of our parish who died in this past year. But it's this belief in the resurrection that gives us hope, that we'll see our loved ones again. It's this belief in the resurrection that gives us strength, that no matter what persecutions and tribulations we face in life, we don't have to be afraid. We keep going. We're not destined to travel around the Lancaster traffic circle for the rest of eternity. We have a destination in mind. And yes, sometimes in life, we can feel like we're going about the wrong way. We can feel like we're just going around in circles, making the same mistakes over and over again. Sometimes we get into the middle of life and we don't know how to proceed, but still, we keep going, trusting in God, pressing onward to that perfect, joyful life that has no end.